Howdy, howdy, howdy. This is the koha-US Systems Administration Special Interest Group, where we talk about the things that live in the administration module of Koha and also SQL and also whatever else comes up. Uh, we have no set agenda. We just talk about whatever people want to talk about. I have brought no topics at all. I guess I'll start by saying, hi, everybody. I'm reporting to you from a different place than last time we had this meeting because I've changed jobs in the meantime, which I feel like I've talked about in so many koha-US Zooms that surely everyone knows this already, but I'm no longer working at Dubuque County Library District. I'm back working at Bywater again, which means I'm at home. If a cat wanders by, I'll hold up a cat. If a dog wanders by, I will not hold up a dog. She's too big. She wouldn't like it. Yeah, so I don't know how's it going, everybody? Anybody got Koha stuff going on that they want to talk about?
I've got some stuff, but I can wait if there's something pressing.
Yeah, does anybody have pressing Koha stuff?
And I've got something that's probably more for the acquisitions group, so I'll hold off till everybody else is finished.
Okay. Well then, Kristi, it's all you. Go for it.
Okay, cool. So we were sort of on the late side of moving to 2405, and this is the second upgrade we've been through since going live. And I'm kind of just sort of wondering if there's kind of like a general, we have a test instance that's hosted by Bywater, and I'm kind of wondering if there's like a good list out there that somebody has of what to check on in your test instance before your live instance is migrated. The things that I was kind of like, I had a few things, but there were some other things I found out, and just kind of trying to pick people's brains on that.
I could tell you that that's on my like laundry list of things that I'm meant to accomplish in my new position at Bywater is making that list of things to test. So I've not seen it, but it's a recognized need and something I'll be working on. And if anybody else has that list, please do send it to me because that'll make my life easier.
I know for us, one of the big things is making sure your hold slips and your spine, like hold slips and spine labels. That was something that we had a blip with. It got fixed very quickly, but that's on my list to check next time ahead of time. Uh,
Well, that's a good example because it's the sort of thing that, like, if you'd asked me what are the chances that an upgrade is going to break my slips, I would have said low. And like that still feels fairly accurate. I don't feel like our slips break all the time,
mhm.
but at the same time,
Well,
when they do break, it's pretty important and it's worth having a look
I,
at.
I think part of our deal is we have so much customization in our how our slips are
Yeah.
formatted that I think some of that might have broken along with that. So it's the kind of thing that's kind of hard to guess if it's going to break, but if your test instance is migrated ahead of time, then
Yeah.
mhm.
I think it's really hard, even with a test server, you're never going to catch everything. It's and what I do, I go through all of these are the things that were fixed and or new additions to the upgrades, and I go through all of those things specifically on the test server and like, okay, look, what does that do? What is that really doing? And even then, it's because there's just not enough volume, and I have a hard time thinking through from a system administration perspective the things that people in circulation are doing all day long because I don't do those things. And I have to rely on them telling me about things. And sometimes they just think that's the way it is and they don't tell me anything. Like one of the things that I found out with this last upgrade was about when you clicked on the link from the items table in the normal view and
Mhm.
you had a full list of every item you have instead of just that one item. And people were printing that page. I went, really? Why are you printing that page? And they told me why they were printing that page. And I'm like, well, okay. And so we had to fix a printable single page view for them. I had no idea that was even going on. So it's really hard sometimes to catch what might be broken, because that was never something I was going to look at or look for.
And it is tempting then to slip into that like software testing nihilism of I'm never going to catch everything. So like,
Yeah.
just take them all as they come. There's probably some sweet spot of some preparation.
Well, like I said, I mean, going through all of the whole long list. Here's all the enhancements. Here's all the bug fixes. And just because those things have changed somehow.
Yeah.
And does it change in a way that works for another library that doesn't work for us? So I'm looking for those things, and I'm certainly testing and trying to catch them. But I've also come in the next morning after an upgrade, and I'm like, okay, what are we really dealing with here?
I do like the idea of having like a really comprehensive list of things to
Yeah.
test that
I
like
do
for
too.
each upgrade we could like flag the things of like these are where we know something has changed and so we really think testing is important. But then here's all the other stuff that you might touch if you have the time and are really looking thorough.
Mm.
Jason, oh yeah, I've seen this old document. Practice exercises for migrating libraries, which Jason put in the chat. Yeah, this is Bywater made these forever ago, and it's like a laundry list of tasks to do as you're getting ready for migration, which is a good like starting point. Make sure these things work.
We've talked about like bribing our people to test in the test server, like sending them cookies and chocolate and stuff, but we've never actually accomplished that goal. And it does seem like no matter how hard you try, you're never gonna find that thing that's gonna make your life miserable until it hits the production server because there's just not enough volume or like real life scenarios going on to make it work and happen.
And not to change the subject, that was something we just ran into with the stock rotation module that we're planning on rolling out. And I'd been testing it with like 10 items, 25 items. Oh, this is great. This is going to do exactly what I want. And as soon as I added 125 items, I went, uh-oh, we have a problem here. I couldn't handle it. And that was the live server. Like, we can't see the list of items when there's just 125 items. And we were planning on putting 2,000 items in a rota. So, I mean, it was just a matter of volume. Testing didn't reveal that until we started really adding things.
Following that sidebar quickly, was that a like pretty easy display bug to make it show all those titles?
It was a matter of just waiting and waiting.
Oh, so
And
it's just slow to show them all.
it was just really well,
Yeah.
they eventually got there, but I don't know what's going to happen when we really get up to a larger volume. So
Yeah.
I've opened a ticket. Like,
Yeah.
is there a problem here? We're about to, if we just found the limitations of the stock rotation module.
That may well be that.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those modules that got written by a library that's using it and it hasn't gotten picked up by a ton of people.
Right. I like it though. I think it's a really handy tool. Just we'll see.
Well, it should be a pretty easy thing to like rework into the API and make faster.
Yeah. Not trying to change the subject into another thing, but it shows the failure of how testing, when things look good on your test server in those small volumes, but you go try to scale and it's like, uh-oh, may not work quite like we'd hoped.
I always find that testing rarely produces the same results as in production because you're never going to do everything that everybody else does.
Mm-hmm.
You can think of the majority of the highlights, the important tasks, but it's the nitty gritty stuff in production that this one person doing this one thing that is so obscure that you don't think of. So
Well,
don't
like
ever expect perfection.
last week I found out in a ticket that you can't take items out of an item bundle if you're using a barcode transformation plugin, like the barcode prefixer or the barcode transformer. And like it's that level of super niche. Like a lot of people do both of those things separately, and it just nobody combined those two things in just the wrong way until we push it out to a bunch of libraries. Anyway, so we all agree that we need better like testing scripts, not scripts in the computer sense, but like processes,
Framework.
to-do lists. Yeah. And yeah, I'll be working on that. If anybody has deep thoughts, hit me up. I'll probably come, bug you all in the future. Kristi, that was your question. Do you have closing thoughts or further needs?
Not, I guess maybe sort of like if any, and this is just not like it needs to be formally published, but like a better idea of if something's going to break, what are the usual culprits? Like what am I going to look at first?
Yeah.
And I have been pondering everything that everyone said. These are all good points to make, but just trying to
But usual
prepare.
culprits is a good idea of a thing to include in that sort of documentation because there are some like things to look at first. Not that they're jumping to mind right now. jQuery. It's always jQuery. Well, cool. What else is going on, y'all?
Have we had a question? I mean, does this update seem like it has been more problematic than others? I mean, I know we've had some earlier that I've dealt with that seem to have a little more buggy issues, but to me, this one, I've got more broken stuff than I've ever had before, and it put in tickets, and I can tell, for instance, that Lucas is like he usually is Johnny on the spot and gets things, at least responds to me fairly quickly, and I'm not saying I'm being ghosted by Bywater by any means, but I can tell the volume is very high compared to other upgrades that we've had. I think 22, one of the 22s had a pretty when the whole face was changed and looked. That was in the staff interface. That seemed like that one had a little bit more buggy than some of the other more minor ones. But this one just seems like it has blown up.
There are some significant changes, particularly with the security tokens. That's, things are going to arise because, it's just like when, we get the new version and we're testing things and, we test for the things that we know about. The people who are developing test for the things that they know about and really don't see all the fine details until it hits production. So yeah, something this significant is bound to produce problems like that. This is what a more significant, I would say this is a more significant upgrade, especially since there were two upgrades in this round. But we've had that before, where there were some significant changes and some things that were, I don't know that they were niche, but they were, there were aspects of it that developers didn't hit until, or didn't know about until production. So
We also move closer to the bleeding edge of Koha this time, like because usually we're a version behind and now we're like on the current version. So I think that also lends to more bugs just because this version hasn't been used and tested as much as previous versions we've been moved to have been.
I'm curious about that move too, because And remember when they made the decision to stay a version behind, and I thought that was a very, I don't know, I felt like it was, I was torn between, I want the newest stuff that I'm hearing about, but I also liked being in that safety zone of being something a little bit more stable um, in production. And I'm wondering why they decided to go to something so close uh, to release.
No, I can speak to what the thought behind that change was when that change was being discussed before I left Bywater, like 2.5 years ago. And I think that logic remained the same, but I haven't like touched back on it. At that time when we looked at the like timing of bug fixes relative to a release, it really was nothing much happened until Bywater moved to a build. So it wasn't actually gaining us much like early advanced testing. There weren't a lot of other penguins jumping into the water to look for sea lions until we all got there.
So is it more, you know, the bugs didn't flesh out until more people were using it?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Makes sense.
that logic of if we wait, we're delaying features for ourselves, but we're getting something more stable. The like math didn't really work out because we weren't really getting anything more stable. We were just waiting longer. And Bywater partners continue to be like the biggest block of users to jump on something and test it.
I think there's overall, it would like thinking about things in terms of scale. You're like, yes, this works, but does it work when you have 200 holds on it, or when you're trying to update 2,000 records, or like a stress testing aspect?
Yeah.
You know, in my infinite wisdom of these things, which is sarcasm.
I almost wish that, you know, and this puts more on Bywater, but you know, if they're going to be closer to this, you know, I do know that they have a pool of people that are early adopters, which is great, and that's probably another factor in some of this is that their early adopters are going to get to those things sooner rather than later. And catch more things. But I almost wish that after a release to Bywater customers, that they could follow up maybe a week or two after and say, here's the big things that people are running into and what we're doing about it, or the workarounds for now, you know, rather than everybody, you know, everybody finding them on their own and filing tickets. They probably get inundated with tickets, whereas if they were communicating what they're seeing out the door with customers, they could probably alleviate some of that flood in towards them and alleviate some of the worry behind it and responding to tickets if they were doing some sort of update on that. You know, maybe this could be something for the Monday Minutes to do a deep dive on or a review after an update.
Andrew, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I appreciated that they did that on the guarantor problem that popped up, because they let us know fairly quickly that, oops, we got a problem here. This is what you need to do. I think it's about a week or so when that came out. And at first I was thinking, oh, maybe I don't have that problem because we don't use that feature very heavily. And about a week later, the report came in. I went, okay, I know what that is. This is, and I've, put a bug report up on the main page to let everybody know what was going on. So it was very helpful. Exactly what Christopher just talked about, to have that information. Even though we didn't experience it right away, I knew exactly what was going on when it did pop up.
I have a quick question. Was the early adopters, I've gotten the impression that the early adopters found a lot of bugs, but it was still pushed out, because when I would send a ticket in, yes, we know about that. Yes, we know about that. There's a bug been filed about that. What would it have been advantageous if they were getting significant bugs to put a halt on release until those bugs are dealt with?
It probably depends on the, how critical the bug is. I mean, if it's going to cause some data problems, I would assume yes. If there isn't a workaround, if there isn't a quick fix, I would assume that they would place a halt on it. They've done that before. I've seen it happen once, in all the time that we've been with Bywater. But I can't say that the number of bugs is a factor for them to put a halt on it. I think it's just the severity of, how much it's going to compromise the data.
Yeah. Just the timing of this one, I was on the partner side for that decision making, so I can't speak to it in any detail. But yeah, like Christopher says, if there was a known like critical bug, they would not have gone ahead with the upgrade. My impression was that this was the early adopters found a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff got patched. And as far as Bywater knew, they were pushing out a okay thing. Like a lot of things were found once the whole partner base was on 2405 that early adopters didn't find. Again, just because there's some chance to that.
So I kind of got the impression that 2311 may have actually been the source of a lot of these bugs. And that since we didn't do 2311, we skipped that one, that maybe the Bywater felt the customer base was getting a little antsy for that next upgrade because we didn't get the upgrade that we all expected in the spring. And that so many of the bugs that seemed to be introduced possibly in 2311 were resolved. And by the time 2405 came out, that it was, okay, we'll go here. That's just, from the peanut gallery kind of impression of, and reading through all the bug reports and seeing what's being fixed in 240505 and 0506, and that the source of the problem may have been 2311. And I think a lot of it is that CSRF token stuff is just difficult to get right, and it's everywhere.
That's another factor too. We jumped 2 versions, and so yeah, we're going to have a little bit more than normal issues to deal with because of that.
Yeah, and that was a known outcome. Like that was gonna make this one harder, and theoretically the next one is simpler still. Most of the difference here was in
I think as well. Sorry. I just know from Interlace's point of view, we normally don't go very early, but we've pushed it out because of the security side of it. And I think that's why everybody has sort of jumped, we jumped 2311 as well and went straight to 2405. But because of the vulnerabilities, we felt we couldn't wait, and I'm sure Bywater felt the same.
I will say this is a bit of a pivot, but I do want to applaud Christopher and George for making the video on changing report links and getting that out before a lot of partners upgraded, because that was really helpful to know about in advance.
Yep. So we were early adopters, and it was a good experience. It was pretty intense with this particular mix of things, but I'm not sure. We requested to be early adopters because there were a couple of features that we wanted to get sooner, and I'm wondering if Bywater generally, if it's by invitation or if people should be encouraged to be early adopters, or maybe too many early adopters would be too much for them. I'm not sure, but
there's a general invitation every upgrade. If you want to be an early adopter, everyone is welcome to be.
Okay.
Theoretically, there may be partners that would get turned away because I don't know, they're doing something too weird.
Yeah, Yeah.
If everybody
Yeah.
was an early adopter, then nobody would be an early adopter.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And nobody
Right.
would reap the
Uh-huh.
benefits of the early adopters.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, so it was kind of trial by fire this time, but yeah, it was a great experience.
And I was an early adopter when I was a partner. I was in a much smaller library than Chip and things, doing simpler library stuff. So nothing seriously broke on us. But I like it. I really felt like if you're an early adopter, you have a dedicated channel within the Bywater Slack to get people's attention, and you have like Bywater support people who are specifically watching you and the other early adopters to try to fix things quickly. Like you're going to run into more stuff, but you're going to have a more clear avenue to get it addressed and to like talk about it. And that seemed like a fair trade-off to me.
Mhm.
And again, a double version jump isn't going to be typical. So this is probably a one-time issue until they decide to hold off on a version somewhere down the line, which I don't see happening. But yeah, so the likelihood of something this significant is very small in the future.
Understandably, I think Bywater's early adopters do tend to be smaller libraries, which like I get that's less of a smaller libraries have less of a headache when things go bad. But having one or two larger library systems in that pool would be beneficial to everybody else. If anybody wants to volunteer as tribute. Okay, any other upgrade thoughts? Okay, we can never talk about upgrades again.
Sounds good.
What else is new?
Can we talk about problems that we've had since the upgrades?
Yeah.
I've just today, after testing on a staging server and not finding it, but on production, when we are using the local group holds, as soon as we enable local group holds, every item on the system is not available for hold. No holds allowed. Has anyone seen that?
Say that one more time.
So after the upgrade, when we went in to place holds, so ordinarily I would do it. I'd find my patron record first. This is just on the staff side. It's fine on the OPAC, but on the staff side, you go and you search for a record to hold, and every single item on your system is showing as no holds allowed.
Yes, I have that. Yes, that happened for us. That was a known bug. Let me see if I can find it.
We ran into that too.
All right. I couldn't find the bug, but I'm probably just not searching for the correct term. So if you have the bug number.
Are you talking about local hold priorities?
No, it's so normally there's like little buttons in your catalog search at the top and right below the record listing that say place hold or the number of holds, and you can click on it.
Right.
And that went away.
Yeah, the button disappeared, and then items were showing no holds available.
Yeah, it's 38148.
38148. Oh, thank you.
I linked it in the chat.
And I think, they pushed a patch for that. And I think when that was pushed, I had requested that it get applied. So.
Yeah, it's on 240505. Sorry, I've just seen that. That is brilliant. Now we had to upgrade yesterday because our client insisted on going to 240504. So we had to do it yesterday before 05 came out. But we might be able to pick up the individual patch. But thank you very much. That is a great help.
See you all later.
Hey, Kristi. Thanks for remembering a bug before you left.
Hi.
Okay, I've got a non-upgrade related item.
Yeah.
So we after we migrated, we missed our category that split everything into adult, YA, or juvenile. And so we found a workaround field to use and use the inventory number field at first, and then figured out that we couldn't set that field up for 9XX ordering because it's not in the mark item fields to order selections. So then we changed to the U field, which is supposed to be a URI, URL, which worked fine for us until the last point upgrade, which I guess was 0.04. And now that kind of forces it to be a URL and a link, and it's not displaying adult, juvenile, YA. So we're looking for another available field in the items, and we're running out of them. And we're thinking about going back to stock number. Does anybody else do this with just having a general category that breaks it down to the three? Or usually shelving locations do the work for that, but our users were kind of accustomed to that breakdown. I don't know. I guess it's kind of unusual.
So this is a point of data that you're showing to your patrons as like part of the path to the item.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I believe they have a facet that goes by that, and it's used in our statistics pretty extensively. Although we are starting a project to bring up Metabase, which will change everything. So anyhow, so yeah, we're back to thinking about using that stock number for that text, and but then we're back to the fact that it can't be brought in with our order records.
Are you doing anything with, is it coded location qualifier?
Mm,
That's one of the fields that mark item fields to order can do. And it's one of those item fields that I never don't remember.
yeah, not really. That's probably the only one we're not using, and I forget why we decided that wasn't a good one.
That'd be the 952.
Oh, I don't think it shows up in the holdings, and we want this to display in the holdings table for staff, and it's not among those. So that was the only problem with that. Yeah.
We use I mean, we're a small library, so we use category codes. So we have, our categories are YA fiction,
Okay.
YA graphic novels, adult nonfiction, adult fiction, juvenile, yada yada, and we can separate everything out through those category codes.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, we assign the call numbers and such as part of, as whatever it falls under in a category code. But
okay,
that's
that could work.
that's the way that's what we use, and it works great. We have 20 some odd category codes. Because I mean, we have everything from seeds to solar glasses to whatever, and they'll have their own category code. So I can easily, what I'm doing right now is we're getting ready to try to get rid of our storage unit where we have almost 3,000 items in, and push it back into our library. And we've got to go through and see what we can get rid of. And so I'm doing by collection development through category codes to determine what's circulating and what's not within a subset by category code.
Yeah, that makes sense. Might look into that. We have about 30 category codes now, and yeah, so yeah, that wouldn't be too much, and not all of them need to be broken down that way. Anyhow, that's worth looking into.
Sorry, to be clear, when you say category codes, is that collection codes that you're talking about? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
C code.
Sorry.
Yeah, under authorized values, the C code.
I don't know if it'll help or not, but I think we do something similar. So I'm just sharing our latest one that we got from Baker and Taylor, like how we set ours up. So you can have that if that helps, hopefully.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, so your collection code contains CH for children's and then nonfiction for, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. That'll be worth looking into, definitely. So
yeah, I know Steven Spawn at Clams one day showed me. I think it's either their collection codes or their shelving locations are very tightly packed, like fixed length data fields that they've homebrewed. So like the first position of the collection code means this thing, and the second position means this other thing. And it works. It's confusing.
yeah.
But it stores a lot of data in there.
Yeah. Yeah, the category code solution also helps with we're rolling out EDI over the next couple of months too, with the end of the fiscal year. We're the new one, we're going to be on EDI with Midwest and Ingram. So that's another factor in this, is what can be in those GIR values. And that's even more limited than the number of item fields we can have. So anyhow, all right. So that's all I had.
Typing notes. Okay, quick, somebody else have a question? Quick, a topic. I'm just going to putting pressure on in case someone breaks.
I have a topic. I broke. Remember that beautiful brew report you blessed us with at conference? Do you have that somewhere?
Yeah.
My consultants would love that for reading.
I was smart and I saved it and I put it somewhere.
My collection development people are thrilled with that crew report too. I was able to modify it for our location. They love it. I'm not sure they're thrilled with the results, but they liked having the report.
It needs a little bit of a cheat code in the notes, though.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm going to have to dig for it and email it to you, because I put it somewhere.
I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Include me in that email as well.
Sure. Yeah. Anybody else while I'm digging? I mean, I can just send it to the SIG group too.
That will be good, please. And we can all pick it up. Thank you.
So one more thing I'd bring up, if the group doesn't mind. I need to get from like beginner level to intermediate SQL to intermediate, maybe advanced. Does anybody have recommendations for like go-to books or online resources or anything like that?
think we all kind of end up on
Yeah.
the side of like, I was just here a long time and just poke
Yeah,
at
yeah, right. That's where I picked up most of it, is learning by doing. So
Yeah, that's how I've done it. Is,
that's it.
if I can kind of figure out what I want to do, I just Google a lot and try to figure it out, or ask some people some questions, and I'll
Yeah.
refer back to some of my reports that I've created over time.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it's I haven't really used any books.
That's
Yeah.
where I am too. But the reports wiki, just kind of gets started and
Oh, yeah.
seeing some clues in there. Say, well, that's sort of the direction I'm
Hmm.
looking, and how can I tweak this thing? And or like this crazy crew report that Andrew came up with is like, okay, what? I don't have to understand all of it, just enough to make it work for our environment.
Hmm.
And but that gives me ideas for that next crazy report that might be useful, but I
Yeah.
don't have a single source
Yeah.
either.
Okay. Great. Well, thanks. Yeah, for my performance evaluation last year was a performance goal for me to take SQL classes. And so trying to figure out what to do.
I would
But
say that probably the best thing to do is
mhm,
find one of the there's a couple of good resources, and I can't think of their names out there, but there's a couple that keep cropping up anytime I do MySQL searches.
mhm,
Um, but usually a good resource online will have a list of different commands on the left,
yeah.
and my recommendation would be, okay, we'll look through that,
Mhm,
and if there's a command that you're not familiar with, or a function or whatever, that you're not familiar with, read through it, and
right.
um, work on some working examples. Just try and test it out, and get a working model of it, so you have a little bit more familiarity with how it works.
Mhm,
I think that's probably the best, self starter kind of thing to do with something
mhm.
like that, is, what are you not familiar with, and
Yeah.
familiarize yourself with it.
Yeah. That sounds good.
I think there's also that Bywater or Koha itself is protecting us from ourselves a little bit. And it's the chances of you doing something so horribly wrong that you're gonna
Hmm.
break Koha is kind of slim.
Yeah.
Um, so that feeling confident that you're not gonna go and accidentally delete a table.
Hmm.
Especially if you have a test server, which it sounds like you do. Um,
Hmm.
do it there. Just
Yeah.
so, and don't be afraid of trying things. You get an error,
Okay.
you get an error, figure it out. It's okay.
Yeah.
Is a useful, just going in with confidence.
All right.
So
So
it's
what
actually
tends
one, oh,
okay.
oh, sorry, that's actually one of my the things that my supervisors wanted me to learn SQL. So I just put a link in the chat of one of the ones that one of my favorite ones so far. It has exactly what Chris is saying, where all the commands are on the left and then the explanation. So I like that site for explanation wise, but I've been
Hmm.
following along with like YouTube tutorials and stuff like that. That's been very helpful. It was it's really nice. Other than those two, those are like my main ones that I'm using to learn right now.
Uh-oh, Jason's pulling out an actual book.
I have a book.
Oh, wow.
I don't know that it actually taught me anything, but it has a funny title. So
Okay.
I don't know. I was just thumbing through it. It does have things like some of the basics. So, and there's a newer edition. There's a 2018 edition. So SQL queries for mere mortals.
And
Mhm.
I don't, you know, I know one of the things we subscribe to, LinkedIn Learning, Safari Online for the public, but that doesn't mean I can't use them too. And
Mhm.
I found, knowing that I would need, before we migrated, some experience with SQL. Safari had a training program that's okay, this is select and this is what that does, and from, and that you're choosing from. And it was a real good introductory, just to get me familiar with the thought process of how the language works. And um, So, and that's, it's nice to work for a librarian to know what resources you have available to you. They're out there.
Yeah, yeah. All right, sounds good.
Speaking of SQL, we had just put out something last week about the things that you can't do in Koha SQL, and I was out having surgery, so George put out the word that the video is out, but that's a good one to check out because there are some things that you have to watch for, especially this recent release. They've blocked some things, particularly, when I build a SQL query to start off with, I'll do some general searches and then hone it into the specific columns that I need. But now the patron table or the borrower table is a little tricky because they've blocked certain things and you can't just do an asterisk and show all fields. So that one makes it a little bit more challenging for my workflow, but a good video to watch about what you can and can't do in there that, as opposed to, just general SQL.
Another thing that I ended up eventually doing is I found myself creating a whole lot of reports that were never kind of half finished, or I was just experimenting. And then I was like, okay, and I ultimately created a scratch pad report that, if I'm trying something out, okay, now I've got that working, I'll put that bit in the final report and I can create something new in my scratch pad instead of just creating new report after new report after new report. And that's made my report list a little cleaner than it was growing out of control really fast as I was experimenting.
It's a good idea.
I want to put a little footnote on Charlie's SQL tutorial just to point out that technically Koha uses MariaDB, which is technically closer to MySQL than SQL. And W3 Schools has a MySQL tutorial as well. The differences aren't huge. There's like date stuff that works differently. The general concepts are going to be the same. It's just going to be occasionally syntax differs.
Thank you.
I've rarely run into, if ever, run into issues.
Yeah.
I'll generally do a MySQL search rather than Maria, but yeah, I haven't run into significant issues.
Yeah, I feel like once upon a time I looked at a date feature that was different in SQL than in MySQL, and once upon a time I looked at some like fancy JSON thing that MySQL knows how to do that Maria database doesn't. But like two things ever that were different between them. I would also say I took a regex course just like through Udemy, some online regex course, and that really helped with SQL. Like it's tangential, but there's enough like more stuff you can do in SQL if you've got a good handle on regex, and it was just like a good, I don't know, expanded my facility to think about strings and how data gets transformed and what you can do with it.
Also used to in JavaScript.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, thanks for all the advice. This is great.
Sure. Good question.
I should be able to make that goal in 6 weeks. Let's see.
If all else fails, we can make like a fake certificate from this SIG and say Chip was here and he learned some SQL from the sysadmin SIG.
Yeah. Hey, all right.
As a system administrator, we came from Symphony and I didn't have anywhere near this level of access to the data. That's my favorite part of Koha, is just being able to, I can get you, people are like, can we do a report that's like, yes, I can get you that. And I love being able to say that, because before it was Symphony reports, it was like, well, I could kind of do this and kind of do this other, and I can maybe get something working for you, but the output will be ugly. And now I was like, I can make that happen. And I might take a week, but I can get there.
Yeah. We came from Symphony too.
Those things that you really can't get. Oh. Like that gets extra frustrating.
All right. Hmm. Well,
We're dawdling on toward the end of our time together. Charlie unmuted herself. What's up, Charlie?
Sorry, I just want to get the name right. Jason, it's MySQL or SQL for mere mortals? Is that?
I had it pulled up in Amazon. I'll put a link in the chat. There it is. Okay. SQL queries for mere mortals. It looks like the 4th edition is the newest edition, which was 2018. But like I was just thumbing through it a second ago, and I'm like, yeah, I understand this better than I did when I bought the book. So I think it probably could teach me some things. I was looking through it, and it is like somewhat language neutral, I think. So
Thank you.
What happens, everybody? I feel like I don't have any like fun little pet projects I've been working on since the last time we met. Just upended my whole life. So I don't know. Yeah, nothing.
I mean, I've written like a bajillion reports in the past month, it feels like, but none of them are all that interesting. Um, I had to write one to find the oldest book in a library's collection because the patron wanted to know, and that just serviced a bunch of bad data where the copyright dates are like 1 and 2 and 3. And then I helped the North Central folks come up with like a stupid monster report that summarizes circulation by shelf location, but also breaks out interlibrary loan items and rotation items because they do things similar to us. So I get to take advantage of their curiosity because now I have that cool, awesome report for my system as well. And it's just unioning a whole bunch of stuff and subtotaling a bunch of stuff.
I have a request. Back in 2012, when we joined Koha, back in the day, I wrote this monster of a report for weeding. Andrew, you've got your report, but the thing that we want is we want to be able to run the report and actually see each of the items. Yours kind of generalizes the sections from what I remember. We want to actually see the items that really need to be looked at that fit the criteria of what needs to be weeded. And it's been years since I've messed with that SQL, and so even I'm looking at it like, why did we ever set it up this way? Why did we ask for this stuff? And so we're reevaluating and wanting to redo our weeding report. And my question is, I haven't looked at the library. I haven't looked at what's available to download, but would the folks here be willing to share in the emails their favorite weeding reports, and a little detail behind it? Because I'd like to be able to see what other people are using and compare them and see if there's a better fit without having to reinvent the wheel. So I have that request. I know there's got to be at least a weeding report in the library, but I doubt everybody's using the same one. So
yeah, no, that sounds like a good thing to share. When I dig up that big crew one I wrote out and send it out to the list, I'll include a note. Hey, everybody, please share your weeding reports. We'll see what we get. Should be interesting. That is like where it starts to push into like reports get a little too local to share really readily. Like those are the things I'm hesitant to put on the wiki because it's going to be take this, edit it hugely, and then it will work for you.
Well, especially, if you have a lot of your criteria baked in rather than, asking on the fly. You know,
Yeah.
we try to ask a lot of stuff on the fly, you know, but yeah, just depends on writing styles. So
Yeah. Where did I put that report? Who did I email that report to?
I know you put it on Slack.
Yeah,
That's where I lifted it from.
You emailed it to me.
I have it.
Yeah, I haven't.
I guess I'm the only one that doesn't have it.
I emailed it to a whole bunch of people, but from an email address I don't have anymore.
All right, Charlie, you need to, I'm putting you in charge to send it out to the world.
I mean, if all else fails, I can log into the Dubuque County Koha server and copy it from there. And drive over there, knock on their door. Give me my SQL queries.
Jason has it now.
Okay, folks, it's 10:59. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Why shouldn't we marry Koha?
Why shouldn't we marry Koha?
Well, yeah, because I had said speak now and forever hold your peace, and then it got me into like cartoon weddings. I don't know.
I can't think of any reason, honestly.
So
It
Jason,
might be illegal, but
you can't put us under.
And then everybody could bring Kohas to the Koha wedding. Be great.
all right, let's go forth and think about that little mystery. It's a Koha koan to contemplate through the day. Goodbye, everybody.
All right.
See you next month.
Thanks all.
Bye. Thank you.